So, North Korea's population has just expanded by 1. I'll see you soon. It's happened again. We was talking not so long ago about Article 13, which is to do with copyright and just an absolute mess, and it can be twisted to any way they want. We now have the EU, the magnificent EU, has now brought in another rule. And for all new cars have to be fitted with speed limiters, European rules, by 2022. So every new car by 2022 is automatically going to be fitted with speed limiters. And apparently it's going to save 25,000 lives in 15 years. I don't know how they can even come up with that number. It's impossible to say. But there's lots of problems with this. Let's talk about the lives thing. Yeah, granted, saving lives is good. But the world is overpopulated as it is, and we're doing too much damage to it. So the more people that survive, the more damage you do to it quickly. I'm not saying go out and kill 25,000 people, but yeah, I just, that's not a good enough excuse for me. Lots of problems. Where to begin? I mean, Article 13, now this. I mean, we might as well just move to North Korea. Very, very slowly, if you can see, they're just taking everything away from the normal person. It's not going to be long until you physically can't do anything. You're only going to be allowed to watch telly at certain hours. You're only going to be allowed to do this. You're only going to be allowed to do... You're not going to be allowed to go to where... You know, it's going to be ridiculous. North Korea is looking quite nice at the minute. My words... You know, other things are going to come on top of this and come on top, and then before you know it, what was the point of beating Hitler and, you know, Mussolini and all them, if this is just going to happen? What's the point? We haven't moved on anywhere. Couple of things I can see straight away, problems with these speed limiters. I'm not saying everyone should go out and speed or anything, but you buy a car and everything, yeah, you have to respect the rules and all that. I understand that. But if a lorry's in front of you, he's limited to 52 mile an hour. You're limited to 60, depending on what road you're on. Or let's say, well, let's just say that for the minute. So you want to overtake him because you don't want to be stuck behind him. There's spray coming off the lorry you can't see. You could say, well, back off from the lorry then. But if you back off from the lorry, before you know it, you're doing 40 mile an hour on a 60 mile an hour road, and everyone's just going to be overtaking you because they can do 20 mile an hour quicker. So that doesn't really work. You try and overtake a lorry and you've got like 7 mile an hour more in the difference. It's going to take you a long time to overtake. Even if you've got a long straight road, it's going to take you a long time to overtake. And then let's say another vehicle comes and you're in the middle of the overtake. Well, that's dangerous. And sometimes you have to overtake a lorry or a bus or a tractor or whatever the case may be, because, you know, depending on what situation you're in. Another thing is, let's say someone, now this really applies to, you know, people in the country and in Ireland and stuff. If you have a serious accident in Ireland, like for me, for example, if I have a serious accident where I am and I manage to call an ambulance, it's going to take, where I am, maybe an hour for an ambulance to reach me. 40 minutes at the most for an ambulance to reach me. And in that 40 minutes, a lot can happen. If you have an accident at home and you can get in a car, you can get someone in a car and drive to the hospital, but you can only drive at stupid speed limits or anything like that, that person could die because you cannot go faster to get to the hospital. That's a serious thing. They don't think about these things. They just think, oh yeah, speed limit, that's fine. They don't think of the actual consequences that can cause this. Also, let's imagine if someone is dying and you need to get to the hospital. You know, someone, you know, you love, like your mother-in-law. Okay, maybe not your mother-in-law, maybe your parents. Oh, I got a mother-in-law joke in there. In all seriousness, you need to get to the hospital quicker because they're dying. Imagine if you can't get to them and they die before you can say goodbye or something. You know, these things do happen. They do happen, and they're taking all that away from you. What else did they say? It's been passed 2022. EU are brilliant and all that crap. Whichever muppets think of these things, they just don't live in the real world. It's absolutely stupid. Also, can you imagine criminals? Right? So if every car has to be, or every vehicle it says has to be, so that means what? Police vehicles are exempt? Why? Why are police vehicles are exempt? It doesn't say that they are, but let's say they're not. Okay, all you got to do then, criminals go out and they try and steal a really fast car to get away from the cops. They don't have to steal a fast car anymore. Just buy a Ford Fiesta. Diesel. You can do 80, 90 mile an hour. They can only do 60. That's it. Rob a bank. Kill someone. You know, you get away. I mean, think about these things. It's just stupid. The more stuff they're taking away from us, the less we can actually do. You know, in some countries, you can't watch certain videos on YouTube. Article 13 is just an absolute nightmare. There's enough rules and regulations we have to follow already without basically taking cars away. So can you imagine all the supercars and hypercars and all that? You know, this. What's the point? What's the point? I'm not saying you have to go out and speed. I'm not saying that. But putting your foot down every now and then is all right. You know, if you're in the right situation. I don't mean going crazy. I just mean, you know, it blows off steam. So you can't do this. What's next? What is next? This is what's scary. What is next? You know, I don't know. Right, I can see if you're in cities and towns. Let's make a compromise here. Cities and towns restrict the cars. Fair enough. There's no point, and I don't see any point of in a town doing, you know, 80 mile an hour because it's pointless. It's stupid. It's pointless. Granted. For 50 mile an hour under, limit the cars around the towns, around the cities, in residential areas. Fair enough. But after that, fuck off. Why? Why? Just why? It also says the UK government says it kills 1,200 people for excess speed. And they are going to mirror the EU laws, regardless of whether they're in the EU or not. What else does it say? It says that motorists routinely exceed 30 mile an hour speed limits on residential roads. Okay, so in the residential areas, fine, block the car, no problem at all. All it's going to do is, if anyone has one of these cars, bring it to me. We'll do a little bit of, hacking, and we'll get that limiter off. Because that's all it's going to do. People are going to be doing this. People are going to be wiring special boxes to your car, or just doing a OBD2, bang it in, and it delimits the car. It's going to happen. It's not going to stop people. It's going to happen. And there's going to be some clever devices out there to stop this. But stop them in the towns and cities, fair enough. If you want to be an absolute idiot and kill yourself anyway, well then natural selection, fine, go and kill yourself. But don't spoil it for everybody. And again, I'm not saying you have to, because I don't know, you're stealing speed. I'm not saying you have to go and speed. But can you imagine, you know, someone dies in the back of an ambulance, someone's kids, and well, I'm sorry, but you know, we wasn't allowed to go over 30 mile an hour. I mean, come on. It's not going to solve anything. People are still going to die in cars. Whether you limit the cars or not, it's not going to do anything. People are going to get around these boxes. It's not going to do anything. It's ridiculous. The stuff they keep doing. They just keep, like I said, just wait for the next rule to come out. And all these rules take 2 or 3 years to come out, and people don't really notice them, and before you know it, it's like I said, it's like North Korea. You're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to do absolutely anything, or say anything, or do anything. The world's going to be so boring, and it's just going to be a horrible place. You know, freedom is the whole idea of it. You know, When people get put in prison, they lose their freedom. Well, we're going to basically be in prison on the outside. So, what's the point of doing anything? What's the point? We might as well just not do anything. And not only that, I guarantee you, even if they don't say it, I guarantee you they're going to put a tracker in that system as well. Well, technically it is a tracker, because I think it works off GPS, and apparently it also works off speed cameras, and they can communicate with each other. So essentially, not only are they stopping you from doing that, they're also tracking you, and you cannot stop that. At least you can go out in a car. I know phones and everything track you, but you can leave your phone at home and you can just go out. You're going to now be tracked, constantly tracked, to see what you are doing. Now, in some cases, yeah, that might be good if they catch somebody, fair enough. But you can't just do that for everybody, because there's going to be no free will. There's going to be no nothing. That's the whole idea. You know, people do crappy, shitty jobs that they don't really like because they need the money so they can go and do something for fun, whether that, you know, racing or just whatever that is. I'm talking on tracks now. You know, whatever that is. The reason why people work is not because they want to, it's because it allows them to do stuff when they get the money at the end of it. And there's some very lucky people that have, well, that like their jobs and earn a lot of money and can do a bit more. But it's going to stop everything. I mean, honestly, people, it's just another law on top of another law on top of another law on top of another law. They've made cars safer. So they keep saying, oh, these cars are category this and they're safer, they're good for the environment, they're good for this, they're good for that. So why do we need all these other stuff? Limit the speeds in the towns, fair enough. But after that, fuck off. I mean, what else does it say? It's a black box. Oh, and they're also using the excuse that it's going to be good for your insurance because it's going to... Bollocks! If you can't speed, well then we don't need insurance. There you go. If you can't speed, why do we need insurance? Your insurance are going to come down. Well, hold on. If you're saying this is going to save 25,000 lives and it's going to make the world a safer, well, EU, a safer and better place, well then we don't need insurance. There we go. So sorted. So all the insurance companies go away. See, do you like that? No, you don't fucking like that, do you? What else? Technology available. Oh, and they're also using it for teen drivers. That's, yeah, whatever. There is that already. You can get that in Ireland. You pay for a box, and if you drive safely for a couple of years, your insurance comes down. But this is the problem, and this is the kicker. It doesn't limit your car, it just records the car. So if you have an accident, there's like a G sensor in it, so they'll know that, you know, if you've had high G, they know you've crashed. They can track you, so they know when you've been on the road, when you haven't, how fast you're going. If you break the speed limit once, that's it. Your insurance just goes sky high. And I'm talking like 31 and a 30 here. So, 31 and a 30 isn't speeding. It just isn't. Most cops with the old Gatto guns, they will let you, maybe go 35, 36, 37 and a 30 without even chasing you because they just know it's not really speeding. But these black box systems, no, they just don't do that. You need to Google it really and find out more of this because it's just, I can't go through it all. And the more I read about it, the more angry I'm getting because it's just ridiculous. And like I said, there's 25,000 lives. How can, in 15 years, how can they do that? How can they say that? People are going to die, whether you can speed or not. You're in a car and you're doing 60 mile an hour and you hit into something hard, like a wall, well, the chances you're going to die anyway, if not be seriously injured. So, it's not going to stop drink driving or anything like that. It's not going to stop any of that. Like I said, the more I read, the more it just angers me. Because you want everything to be safer. I get it. I do get it. But you're taking everyone's free will away. And that's the problem. People buy cars not everyone, but some people, because they're exciting, the way they make you feel. And you don't have to go crazy to enjoy a car. You don't have to go crazy to enjoy, you know, the sensation of a car. You just don't. And if they say, well, you know, the road's not the place, well, then what they should do then is make tracks more available for people. Make it where people can actually go somewhere to get all this out of the system. Now, I know in America, there's tracks everywhere. In England, there's tracks everywhere because all the old airfields and stuff. But in Ireland, for example, there's basically nothing. There is a couple, but again, they have all their rules and regulations. In the UK, you can go for like 20 quid and you can go drag racing with your own car. Here, you need roll cages and, you know, you need like a track car here. And not many people can afford that. So make it easier for people to do stuff then. If you want to do all this stuff on the road and limit people, okay, well, make it, they can go somewhere, because otherwise people just get frustrated. And when people get frustrated, I'm talking millions of people now getting frustrated, that just causes more issues. It's like if you stop people drinking and you ban drink. Could you imagine the grief that would cause? And this is essentially the same thing. They're stopping us from basically driving. If they banned cigarettes tomorrow, there would be like a world uprising. They wouldn't be able to do it. If they banned drinking tomorrow, they wouldn't be able to do it. So why can they do it to motorists? And they're going to put more and more laws on top of each other where physically there's no point you driving anymore. And if you live in the sticks where, like I do and a lot of other people do, you need a car to get to work or to do anything. I tell you. I know I'm going to get grief for this video and people saying, you know, that I'm basically saying it's okay to speed. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, how can they figure out they're going to save 25,000 lives in 15 years? That's bullshit. There's no way. There's just no way you can predict that. Yeah, this is just a nightmare. This is more dickheads in the EU thinking they know what they're talking about, which they don't, and just causing more shit for everybody. And yeah, it's just good. All it's going to do is cause more of a black market for people. There's going to be more people making money on, you know, basically plugging stuff in to disable these boxes and stuff like that. And yeah, you know, and the police, they can only police so much. They can't police everything, you know. And yeah, and that's another thing. If we cannot speed, well then take every fucking speed camera off the road. Because what's the point of having it if we all can't speed? Now I know people are going to say, well, hold on, in between, not everyone's going to have a new car by 20. I know that. I'm just saying in general. Once all this comes out and everyone does have a car that's made in 2022, well, that means all the speed cameras then, you know, are going to be gone. And they say they don't use speed cameras for money. They use it for a deterrent. Bollocks! That means there's no point in having traffic core or anything like that because no one's going to be able to do anything on the road. So all them people lose their jobs. You know, if it wasn't for criminals and people like that breaking the law, we don't need police. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm going to leave it here because I'm just getting too angry because it's absolutely pathetic. It's stupid. I'm just looking at the screen, see if I can see anything that just catches my eyes. 500 people die every week on EU roads. Well, that's not 500 people speeding. That's loads of, you know, an animal could pull out in front of the road. Someone could be drunk. Someone could have a heart attack. You know, there's loads of reasons just from speeding that people die on the roads. And if someone's speeding and they kill themselves, well, it's their own problem. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just... I'd like to know what you think of it in the comments. Let me know. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think it might just move to North Korea and just have a nice life? Because that's the way it's going. This is only happening in the EU, so everyone else, you're okay. But people in Britain, you're not okay because it says here that they're going to do it regardless, whether they're in the EU or not. it's going to obviously affect people in Ireland, but it's not going to affect me because I've got like a 1985, a 1986 car and a 1974. So, you know, I don't have fancy new cars, so I'm going to be all right. And they're not sticking any box in my fucking car, I can tell you that much. And yeah, another thing they do is they don't really advertise these things. They just kind of, they advertise a little bit, enough to say, well, hold on, no, we told you all this was happening years ago. We gave you 5 years before it came out and all this sort of stuff. And then bang, it comes out. And most people are like, whoa, what the fuck's this? Where's this come from? And they'll say, no, we told you this 5 years ago that we were doing this. You actually didn't. If the normal person was as sneaky and as slimy as these twats, we would be locked up. But they get away with it. Why do they get away with it and we can't get away with something like that? If I did that on people's bills, imagine I put stuff in and stuff like that, and at the end of the 5 years, you know, there was, I don't know, lots more money added on. So no, I told you, you know, I told you a few years ago I was going to do that. You know, it's not my fault you didn't get the message. Or you deleted the message, or I sent it to the wrong number. You know, my mistake, you know. So fuck off. So that's it. So look, people, make up your mind. Tell me what you think. You can tell me how much of a prick I'm being. It doesn't really bother me. Couldn't care less. And yeah. So comments down below. And as always, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted.